Hey there, I'm Tony Boutros. I'm a real estate investor and agent here in Indianapolis, Indiana. But more than that, I'm a mental health advocate and self-development enthusiast. See, growing up, I had terrible health, both physically and mentally. So my goal here is to help people become the true versions of themselves that they are meant to be. Whether you're a new or returning listener, I appreciate you being here, and I hope you enjoy this episode. Thank you so much for watching. There's a global pandemic that is plaguing the lives of billions of men and women. This pandemic plagued myself as well until very recently, but I'm blessed to have been able to receive what I believe can be a forever solution for anyone. In this video, in this podcast episode, we're going to talk about the detriment of porn. Something that most of us probably aren't very comfortable talking about. Something that we've just accepted as part of our lives. We've just seen it as this thing that we can't control. It controls us. And something that we have to have ultimate willpower to even withstand for a couple of minutes. Something that's taken us from our family. Something that has made our lives shallow. Something that's made us lose our attraction to our wife. Something that has made us lose our happiness. It's gotten us in depression, anxiety, and more mental health issues. It's ruined so many lives. And I don't want it to ruin yours. But only by being open and honest about it can you overcome porn. So I'm going to dive into my story, and hopefully it's motivating, hopefully it's inspiring, hopefully you get some tips on how you can defeat this disease, this plague, this pandemic, this addiction. There's a stat that says, by the Barna Group, 68% of Christian men and 50% of Christian women admit to viewing porn regularly. 68%. And these are people that know porn is detrimental to them. They are Christian men and women. And when I first started this episode just now, you just heard me say, I believe that I found a forever solution. And that forever solution is in God. But the truth is, some of us, even with God, we don't have the willpower, the faith, the strength, the confidence, mental fortitude to overcome addiction. Whether that's gambling, whether that's porn, whether that's whatever else you like to do, whether that's overeating or not eating or whatever kind of addiction you have, but specifically porn. 68% of Christian men. I just want you to really take that in. Really take that in, because that means you're looking at 3 Christian men, and they look like, and they probably are, amazing men, but they're plagued by this single addiction that seemingly has grasped onto their life and taken control. We know as Christians that we're supposed to let, and we should let, God and Jesus and the Holy Spirit take control. But these worldly things, they look so attractive to the human eye, and once we're done with our day, once we're through our day of stress and of work and of so many different hundreds or thousands of things going on bothering us throughout the day, we collapse. Our willpower collapses. Our faith collapses, and we're tired. We think in a moment, this won't hurt me. This won't actually negatively impact my life. And yet the truth is, it will. Now, I don't know all the science behind it, but I know that it affects your prefrontal cortex, which essentially just means it makes your decision-making poor. It makes your emotions misguided. It can make you irritable. It can make you angry. And it can make you take out your anger on your children, on your wife, on your family, on your coworkers, on whoever may not and probably doesn't deserve your anger. I can tell you right now, your kids, your wife definitely don't deserve your anger. They deserve for you to be an honorable, respectable, kind, courageous, strong man. And when you watch porn, it makes you the opposite. It makes you guided again. Like I said, it makes you guided by this porn. It makes you guided by these worldly things that we think are so awesome in the moment. And it's a struggle, but it's a struggle that only we can go through together, because we're not going to beat it if we're alone. And I think that is the solution. I think the solution is talking about it openly and building a community of people who have gone through the same issues, and building a community of people who aren't afraid and aren't judgmental. And where do you find that? Where do you find these men that are open to talking about their porn use? It's a very sensitive, personable issue. So why would anyone want to talk about it with you? Well, because they have the same exact thoughts that you do. And so for me, what's truly helped is going to Christian events. And I'll tell you right now, I was away from the church for several months on end because I didn't want to be a part of the hypocrisy. I didn't want to be one of those people who's going out to drink and smoke and party and sleep with whoever Saturday night. And then Sunday morning, you put on your Sunday best, you act like a saint, you go to church, and everything's perfect. Because see, I have this driving ambition, this calling that just tells me I have to excel in anything I do. And given you won't never excel in everything in the beginning, or at anything in the beginning for that matter, but this is immensely powerful. And another thing is, many of you are of different ages, and you're listening to me, and it's like, oh yeah, you know, you were able to beat it, but you're a young kid, you're way behind in life, you haven't gone through the stress I have, yada yada yada, you know. And I'll tell you right now, most of the people that I know are at least in their 30s, and most of them are 40s, 50s, and I even know people in their 60s, 70s, and 80s. And some of them still go through the same issues, and some of them within the last year quit. So I understand that this can plague you in much later stages of life. I understand that this isn't an issue that's just for little kids, that this is an issue that plagues 68% of Christian men and 50% of Christian women. And the truth is, some men and some women go through it our entire life because we're not simply willing to be open and honest and transparent and surrender our sins to God. We're not willing to build a community that, because we have this in our mind that they're going to judge me. I mean, when you think about talking to someone about porn and you've never done it before, I think that it's very easy to believe that they would laugh at you, or they would ridicule you, or they would just, not like you, or whatever. We have it, this anxiety that we have in our minds, which partially, by the way, is created by the porn itself. But if you never admit you have a problem, then you don't have a problem. And what I mean by that is, of course, you physically have the problem, but you have no problem to beat, which means you will never beat it, but you'll still have the underlying problem within you. And so some men, and I think unfortunately the majority of men, we die. We literally live our entire lives watching porn. And we start at such a young age. I mean, the internet has allowed us to see more of pornographic and nudity and all this vile, malicious content than kings, literal kings who controlled an entire nation did 100 years ago, 50 years ago, 200 years, not long ago, literally not even a century ago, probably 50 years ago, because the internet is a very, 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 very new thing. And so if you think back to your childhood, I'm sure you can think back to the times when maybe you had nudes, maybe you had, that Polaroid, and you had printed out some pictures of your girlfriend or whatever. But that's not the best thing to do. But you also didn't have access to literally any type of woman in the world, your ideal fantasized woman. You didn't have access to just look up a couple words. Oh, I want to watch a hot, thick, brunette girl take it in the you know what, right? You couldn't do that, but you can today, and it's easy to see why we get addicted. And I have the statistic in front of me. It says the average age of first exposure to pornography is 11 years old. Now, I want you to think about what you were doing when you were 11 years old. Let's just say, for example, you grew up in the 1970s, so you were in the 1980s when you were 11 years old. So, what were you doing? You were probably playing outside. You were probably riding bikes. You were probably, I don't know. I'm not I'm not that age, so I don't know exactly what you guys did, but the point is you guys probably had a lot healthier habits. 11 years old is, what grade is that? Is that elementary school? What grade is 11 years old? That's at the very least that's middle school. So you have middle schoolers out here watching grown women and grown men engaging in what is supposed to be such a beautiful and natural act of sex, but what today has become controlled and manipulated and addicting to those who watch it, and even probably some those people who engage in it. And I have this unique perspective that was brought to me yesterday by a brother of mine, by a great Christian leader in my community. And what he was saying was, a lot of us Christians, especially those of us who engage in porn, and again, I'm blessed to have been saved from that myself, but we engage in porn, but obviously we're firmly against human trafficking. But we don't put two and two together and realize that some of this porn that we're watching, some of it very possibly is human trafficking. Some of these people are possibly being sex trafficked. And we're giving power to the traffickers by engaging in the content, because if they didn't make money because they didn't have us watching it, then they wouldn't do it. So if that's what you need to put in your mind so that you don't watch porn, put in your mind that you're watching a woman who is sex trafficked. Especially, I remember going through porn sites, and I would see teenage, or I don't know if I ever saw a kid, but I remember seeing teenage titles, and if they were a teenager or not, they could have just, it's hard to even think about, but it could have been trying to attract that specific audience who is unfortunately attracted to teenagers, which is another thing I guess they're trying to normalize, but it's very, first of all, it's unacceptable, and second of all, it's super weird that they're trying to normalize it. But I have this next statistic in front of me. It says the relationship impact of porn. There was a study published in a Journal of Sex Research that porn use is associated with decreased sexual satisfaction and relationship quality. And we spoke about this earlier. We spoke about, not being attracted to your spouse and not being happy and taking out your anger on your spouse and on your children. And if we were able to think logically before we watched porn or while we watched porn, I think that I can say that at least 99% of us would probably restrain ourselves. If we knew that we were going to get angry with our wives, we were going to ruin our relationship, we were going to be less attracted to our wife, then I think most of us would refrain from porn. But the issue is that porn makes our dopamine receptors go crazy, and so it makes us feel like we're having the best time of our lives. And again, I'm no scientist, but I think that's where where the post nut clarity comes from, because we're like, after the moment, we're like, we realize what we actually did. And unfortunately, it's not just regret for the next few minutes. It's regret for weeks on end, months on end. And it is associated with decreased sexual satisfaction and relationship quality. I mean, if we knew that we were going to get angry at our wife, at our children, at those who we love, and those who love us, then I think most of us would refrain from porn. Now, the next thing I wanted to talk about is, again, we spoke about the about being less attracted to your spouse, and we all know that as Christians we are supposed to be virgins until marriage. And growing up how I grew up, for those of you who know my story, you know that I grew up with severe depression, anxiety, anger issues, isolation, and obesity. And so I had no friends. I had no community growing up. And, back then I wouldn't have known it to be, but now I see it as a blessing because I am a virgin. And as a man in today's society, that sounds weird to most people. But when you talk to Christians, when you talk to good men, they're like, that is amazing. That is, extraordinary. Because most men can't go that long. And realistically, the first, 18 some years of my life, I didn't have access to women to be able to not be a virgin. But the last 2 years I have. And before I even came to God, I feel like God had his control, had his power in me. And what I mean by that is, for example, I was talking to someone about this the other day, actually a few people, about how my podcast is called the Reborn Podcast. And I love that name. But what's funny is that's a key word in the Christian community. Reborn in God, reborn in Christ, reborn in Jesus. Jesus was reborn. But I made the name Reborn before I even came back to God, to the church. And so I think God, he had his plan, and he put that in the back of my head. So I think God has his plan, but let me tell you this stat or fact real quick. And it says, research has shown that people often escalate their porn consumption over time, seeking more extreme or violent content to achieve the same level of arousal. So this means you might start with, I don't want to get into specifics, but you're going to seek more extreme or violent content to achieve the same level of arousal, which again goes back to not being attracted to your spouse, not being attracted to the one person who you're supposed to be attracted to. And I think that goes without much explanation. I don't know how to better explain it to you, but I think most of us, we'd rather have a beautiful night with our wife, with our spouse, than we would have a lonely night doing this evil habit, engaging in this evil habit and letting it control our life. I think we'd much rather go with the former. But 68% of us men don't, and 50% of our sisters don't either, because it's easy. It's easy because our spouse might not want to have a beautiful night when we do, right? So it's more accessible. It's more accessible. That's really what it boils down to. And here's another stat or fact that I have in front of me. It says some experts consider porn addiction as a real issue, and they should. A study in JAMA Pediatrics found that adolescents with greater exposure to pornography had a higher likelihood of reporting low sexual desire and symptoms of compulsive sexual behavior. So I don't know about you, but what I get from that is a lot of what I was just saying. Low sexual desire, symptoms of compulsive sexual behavior. That's what we've been talking about the last, I don't know how long this is, 20, 30 minutes. That's what we've been talking about. And it it's all gonna go back to that. It's all gonna go back to ruining your actual relationships, ruining your marriage, your children, your life as a whole. Really, because if you're watching porn, you can't think at the highest of your ability. As we said with the prefrontal cortex, and you're always going to be controlled by this worldly thing. And so there's a quote that I was able to pull up, and I think it really puts what I was saying into a great but unfortunate quote. And it says, "Pornography is a drug. As with any addiction, it numbs your emotions and robs you of your self-worth." This is by Joshua Shea. And that is the true impact. Hey guys, this is Tony Boutros. Sorry for the interruption. Just one quick question for you. Have you taken any value from this episode or any other episode you have heard on the Reborn podcast? If you have taken value, one quick small favor to ask from you. It would mean so much to me if you could just share this episode or share this podcast with someone else who would take value, who could improve their life, a friend, a family member, or someone in your local community. At Reborn, we're all about helping others succeed. We're all about personal development. We're all about being true to who you are, not hiding the things you're insecure about, but rather bring them to the light so that you can push through and become the best version of yourself. And if you guys should just share this episode with someone who could gain value, someone who could possibly change their lives from listening, I urge you to do so. Not only would it mean so much to me, but hopefully it would mean so much to them. You know what they say, your network is your net worth. Be a valuable part of someone else's network. There's another quote here. It goes back to what I was saying earlier with human trafficking. It simply says, "Pornography is human trafficking on a screen." And this is by Lila Mikowait. Sorry if I'm butchering that. There's two more quotes I want to read to you. One is, "Pornography is, in fact, a pandemic of the digital age." I was saying a pandemic that's more powerful than COVID, than the flu, or than whatever other plagues or pandemics we've gone through. Number 4, the fourth quote I want to read to you is, "You become what you consume." If you consume, and actually I want to reread this one because this one is super powerful. You become what you consume. If you consume pornography, you'll become sexually distorted, which means you'll always need, again, going back to what we said before, you'll always need the more extreme or violent content to achieve the same level of arousal, which means ultimately there's going to be one of two options. A, you manipulate your wife into doing this kind of content for you, or B, you engage yourself in porn. And I think we can say that's a lose-lose situation. There's no good outcome from either of those. But it's something that we all fall victim to. And if I can leave you with anything today, I think the most important thing is the solution, or at least what the solution was for me. I can't promise that it'll be the solution for you, but the solution for me was, giving my life to God and surrendering my sin to God. And I think that second part is even more powerful, because surrendering your sin to God means being open and transparent and honest with God. And now for me, what's been very, very helpful is getting this amazing group of men around me who have dealt with the same issue, being transparent with them. And I would say that's the way to go. But if you truly cannot bring yourself that direction, then I don't want you to give up and just do nothing. So instead of doing that, I just want you to pray to God about it. I want you to let me close this out with a prayer before we end this episode. Dear God, I come to you today blessed, and I come to you with a request for some of my brothers and sisters that are listening to this episode. And God, I know we've had a lot of temptation from the devil recently, especially with this world that we live in, with lust and worldly things, going after riches and so many different things that just have a control over us. I think it can be easy to fall victim, especially when we see, as men, we see all these women who seemingly just want a man who has money and who has abs and who had, the perfect man that you see in movies. It seems like we need to chase all these worldly things so that we can live the life we want. And the truth is, in you, we'll never be on the wrong path, which is a quote from a brother of mine that I love. If we're following God, we're never on the wrong path. But in you, if we can come together, if we can be transparent and open and honest with each other and trust in each other because we trust in you, then that will be what will be able to end this pandemic, this addiction, this habit, this itch that we have that is ruining so many men and women's lives. And we spoke about all the negative parts of it today, and those aren't gonna go away. But I think a lot of us, when we're in the moment, when we are pulling out that phone or that laptop to open up these malicious sites, it's easy to be like, oh yeah, he's just talking, whatever, he doesn't actually mean what he's saying. He probably is going to go do it himself after this prayer. And it's like, Jesus, you are the way. You are my strength. You are my confidence. You are my power. You are my everything. You are my, and I always have this image in my mind. You are my bus driver. You are my guide. You control my decisions, my life. And by putting my trust in you, by putting my fear in you, I've been blessed to get myself around some amazing brothers and overcome this addiction. And I just wish that you do the same for every single person that's watching this episode. I wish that you will provide them with support and strength and honor and respect for themselves, so that they can get over this habit, so that they can build their family and they can be a part of their community. They can give back to their community. They can maybe build wealth for their family. They can provide for their family. They can provide for their wife and their children, or their husband and their children. They can do all these amazing things that without you we cannot do. God, I pray that you provide every one of my brothers and sisters here today strength and willpower and honor and respect and endurance and perseverance and persistence and all of the traits that you have. God, I thank you for another day on this beautiful planet. Even though it might not seem like it at times, might not seem so beautiful with a lot of when we fall into the political trap and other parts of life. But God, what you've created here is natural and beautiful and amazing. And I thank you for blessing me with another day to live and to embrace the beauty of the world that you've created. And I thank you for allowing all these amazing men and women to be here and to truly seek out help. And I pray that you provide it, because I'm just a man and I would love to snap my fingers and remove all porn addiction and solve world hunger and solve cancer and all of these issues that we go through in today's world. But unfortunately I can't. I'm an ant in comparison to you. So I pray that you bless these brothers and sisters with all of the traits we just mentioned. And I appreciate the life you've given me, the trials and tribulations you have given me, the the purpose you've given me, the why you've given me, the ambition you've given me, the stage you've given me. It's amazing. And I will always do my best to use it to respect and to honor you. I will not misuse it. And I hope that tonight or today I shine your light through me. And I hope that my audience can see that and can hear that and can be motivated by that. God, again, I can keep saying this all day. I could literally repeat this all day, but I want to thank you again for everything, for making me born, for, making me a part of the community I'm a part of. I think that's it. In Jesus' name, amen. I hope you guys have a blessed day. I hope you guys took some value, some inspiration, and not just inspiration, but I hope you guys took some anti-action, I guess, inaction from the habit we spoke about today. I hope you guys can break that. And if any of you are struggling exceedingly and you just can't seem to get it off your mind, feel free to reach out. And if I can, I'll try and hop on a call with you. If I can't, I'll pray for you. But I appreciate you guys being here. I hope you have a blessed week, and I will see you on the next episode. Hey guys, Tony Boutros here. Just wanted to express my gratitude real quick for you guys getting through this episode. I hope it was extremely valuable, and if so, if you could just leave me a rating so that more people like yourself could listen to this content and improve their lives, it would mean so much to me. Again, you know what they say, your network is your net worth. Be a valuable part of someone else's network. Thank you so much for listening, and have an excellent week.